was it the second one where didn't you get Aggie involved somehow?
Yeah, we did a song with Aggie. So the whole thing is like, I don't even know if Elliot knows much of this really, but the whole thing is that when Elliot and Naylor left, I spent a little while back in the UK, just chilling out, there was nothing else to do, and I went back to New York, and this producer was like, "Hey, I'd like to do the second record for the Bible Conquerors." I was like, "Well, that would be good, but there's no band involved anymore." And he was like, "Well, just find other guys." So okay, well, that happened, and we put other guys in place. But I became friendly with this French artist called Emily Simon at the time, and I'd written this song, and she co-wrote it with me. She technically co-wrote Who with me, because she wrote this sort of female part in the chorus that Aggie sings, and there's a French version of it that we never released with Emily Simon. And when we were doing it in the studio, Aggie was living in New York at the time, and just kind of building her name. And she heard it, and it wasn't massively strategic, but it was like, look, obviously, sing on this song. It's gonna create weight to the whole thing, and that's exactly what happened. And she sang on it, and we did a video, and it became very interesting for a few months, and then it just sort of fizzled out. It was pretty straightforward, but
I hope you enjoyed it. Well, last you want. Here's the thing. If you want, I don't think we have nothing to lose. You want to make this podcast interesting. The truth is, I would never have allowed that to happen. I would have. It's true. I would have been like, no fucking way. We're not being one of those bands that gets a fucking model to sing. That is so corny. Also, I don't know. There's a lot of, but whatever. Like, I didn't really care. I'm not in the band, so he could do whatever he wants. It was always more like his band than anyone else's. Obviously, if he was writing some of the songs before I'd even met him, but I just knew that. I was like, I just never would have, we would have, if we didn't, if you had tried to pull that when I was there, if I hadn't already left, that would have made me leave. I'd be like, no way. But I don't know. The whole thing is kind of just entertaining. It is what it is. It's like just another. At least we can laugh about it now.
Well, the English cut me to pieces for it.
I hope you made some money.
The English, well, that's another story. But the English cut me to pieces for doing it, and that's
what happens though. That's why I've been like, this is what's going to happen. The English are going to cut you to pieces for that. That's what I wouldn't use those words, but it just seems so obvious. But
it was interesting because he's right. It would never have happened with Elliot and the band. It would never. I wouldn't even have entertained it anyway. I wouldn't even have thought about it. But I think also, I just was. It's like fucking when you listen to fucking Paul McCartney without Lennon. I know that sounds a fucking terrible comparison because it's Paul McCartney and Lennon, but you know what I mean. The relationship. It's the idea that you write a song, and that if you play it to somebody in the band that you trust and you can collaborate with some capacity and you have that connection, they're going to tell you whether it's shit or it's good. And at the end of the day, I totally lost that, and it was incredibly hard. That's actually the one thing I think about more than anything else of all of the time that we had, And this is like this. By the way, this isn't like a podcast. This is like a therapy session at this point. You know,
I think this is what probably one of the few things people be interested in hearing in this in this podcast.
But I think the problem is that I you know, if you sit down and analyze it like I have a few times, I could say before I met Elliot, there was not much of. I mean, I was writing, but there was not much direction of what I was doing. There was no sort of, I don't know how to describe it. And then I meet Elliot, and we kind of together create this thing that works, and everybody knows it works, and everybody knows it works with us together. And Ada, of course, but you know, but I think once that stopped, it was there was no balance anymore. And on a small scale, that was deeply difficult because there's nothing, where do you go from there? And so after like record 2, which we did some touring, it was just, you know, I didn't have any more room to go. You know, but I've also been doing it for a long time, but there was just no room to go. You know, there's nowhere else to go. But I remember one time me and Elliot got together in New York a little while later. Do you remember this? We met in a bar like down like Chinatown or something.
Uh-huh.
And do you remember this?
Sounds about right.
We sat together and he was like, you know, maybe I should come back. I remember just talking about it slightly, you know, and we played a show like the next week. This is exactly what Elliot means, because we played a show like the next week as the, you know, whatever new guys they were, and he came to the show, and we were playing effectively the same songs as album 1 and 2, and he was like, you know. And I spoke to him after the show, or maybe like the next day, and he was like, you know, I can't come back because you're still playing the same shit. You know, you're still doing the same set lists. And I was like, well, yeah, because I can't fucking, you know. It was hard to explain, but I was like, of course I am, because we can't sit in a rehearsal room together and do what we used to do. So, yeah.
Well, I remember that gig.
You left too early. That's what you did. You left too early.
I left too early. Did I leave? Oh, the band. Not.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
You might have left that show early as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I went up there and like it was like the opening chord to Head Games. I'm like, wait, hold on. We're gonna start over. Just like we're just gonna pretend like the last 3 years didn't happen. I mean, if I'm gonna come in at this point, we should just only be playing like songs with models, you know. That's just.
Now,
I want some of that. I need. You got to give me some of that Aggie money if I'm gonna come back.
Yeah,
Were you singing at that gig?
Say again.
She's singing at that gig you're talking about.
No.
I
never saw her perform.
2 shows.
Oh, right, okay.
2 or 3 shows. I think what happened was, I mean, if we're going to be perfectly honest, she's an amazing girl, lovely, you know, and we never would have met her if it wasn't for the Paddingtons. She did like she sang on the thing. We did some press and stuff, and then she didn't sing in New York, she sang in London. We did something at the Queens of Noise or something. What's that place called in the east of
Yeah.
We did that, and we did like one other, and the press got so fucking bad that they were like, you know, if people turned to me like, dude, you gotta stop this shit, because she actually has a career and you're destroying it.
Holy shit.
And I think
well, but can I ask a question? I want to ask Harry and Tom a question. What was your impression of that whole time?
I was like, we should have fucking done that.
honestly, I don't remember too much apart from the fact that Josh was a little bit upset. I think I just found it quite funny. I think I just laughed. I was probably just laughing at the fact that Josh was crying.
Yeah, exactly. I think the tension between the Paddingtons at that point probably was enough.